Satchel from Steel Panther. You're listening to Metal Stream Radio with Metal Matt, and he is totally naked from the waist down.
Hello and welcome to the second hour of the Metal Matt Show on Metal Stream Radio, and we have the Alice Cooper hour now because we're going to celebrate the music of Alice Cooper, and also a cool little guest later on, someone who's got a cool association to Alice Cooper. So wait for that, and you'll hear me chatting in just a little bit with a great addition to. Well, I won't tell you too much yet. I'll keep it a surprise. But someone cool who's did some cool stuff with Alice recent. So we're going to get to that. But yeah, just to start off, Alice Cooper, he's been going for so many years now. I think they started around the 70s. It was just kind of crazy, kind of garage rock kind of vibes in the beginning, and the Alice Cooper band obviously had such a unique sound, and with the amazing Schools Out album and $1 Billion Babies, and so many great songs, Halo of Flies, these great songs that stick out in your mind. I'm 18, of course, we got Be My Lover. That was always a classic of the kind of early Alice. But Alice kind of evolved into, a different character. I think when he stopped drinking and things like that, and he went to rehab and all this stuff, and he did a fantastic album, From the Inside, I think just after coming out of rehab, which I don't think he remembers doing. From what I've heard in interviews, he doesn't even remember doing that album. But it's such a fantastic album, and he sings about all the characters that he met inside and all that kind of thing, and it's just a great album From the Inside. So many great things he's done, and as I say, he kind of, when he stopped drinking, he become kind of a different character. He was he was kind of he become the villain, I think, more as he sobered up. Alice become a character of a villain, and before that, I don't know, he was just a bit more, of a kind of drunk Alice kind of vibe, but still the songs were fantastic. But he said himself in interviews and things, the character kind of changed as he stopped drinking. He played Alice sober, and it was quite a surreal being on stage sober playing that character, but luckily it worked, and he managed to get better and better, from his sobriety, and really develop that character into this super villain that we know as the shock rock god Alice Cooper. He's loved by everyone. He's rubbed shoulders with people like Elvis Presley, and the KFC guy, the Colonel guy of KFC, and everyone in between kind of knows and loves Alice, and he's kind of a real part of American history, so we're here to celebrate him. He was my first ever concert. I grew up on him. He was my introduction to metal and rock, really, Alice. My dad used to play all that stuff, Brutal Planet, Dragon Town, Raise Your Fist and Yell. Zipper Catches the Skin, that was a really cool album. What else have we got? Did I say Dragon Town? So many great albums, but they were the main kind of ones. Raise Your Fist, Constrictor, Dragon Town, Brutal Planet, all that stuff were like the main ones. But I always remember the Zipper Catches the Skin had a great track, make that money run like honey on your tongue. And No Baloney, Homo Sapiens, No Baloney, Homo Sapiens. Can't remember the exact melody. I haven't heard that one for a while, but that was great. So many great songs, just fantastic music, and Alice has ever evolved, to do different things each album. You never know what to expect, and obviously he tours primarily with his own band now, the Alice Cooper band of now, which is more, playing the songs from over the years, but the original band is what people often come back to, the real hardcore Alice Cooper fans love that original lineup with Dennis Dunaway and Glenn Buxton, and just great band, and they had a unique sound, and we were lucky to have a new album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper, with that original Alice Cooper band recently, which is really cool. And before that, we had he's done stuff with various different guitar players. He's had Slash guest on his songs, and his main band now, which he performs live with, consists of Tommy Henriksen on guitar, Ryan Roxy on guitar, Nita Strauss, Glenn Sobel on drums, and Chuck Garrick on bass. That's like his live band, which he's kind of been touring with for a long time. And he had Orianthi for a while, who also was going to play on Michael Jackson's final show. She's on that Michael Jackson movie thing of his final show. I met her actually in Bristol. That was my first Alice Cooper show. It's surreal, you know. Alice Cooper was like looking at me in the eyes. I was like 13 or something. It was my first show. And I was just like, this is crazy, seeing my hero at last in concert. It was just like so, you know, theatrical, and that helped with your imagination, you know, because I was like, I didn't know what it'd be like. It's my first ever show, and it was just, you know, he played the part perfectly, and he looked me in the eyes as he was there singing away, screaming 18 and stuff, kind of in your face almost, and looking you in the eyes like kind of in character, you know. And he personalises the front row. That's what I love with Alice. And the first few rows is really like, if you're going to be at an Alice Cooper show, you want to be in those first couple of rows because it's so intense. He's looking at you, he's personalising the audience and pointing at you and all sorts of stuff, you know. Because I was lucky enough to be on the guest list for the Swansea show back a while, but I was up in the balcony, and as much as it was awesome, it was nothing like being front row. It was like nothing beats that experience of being up close during an Alice Cooper show. And I'm lucky I'm going to be seeing the Hollywood Vampires in Cardiff soon, so that's going to be fun. I'm only really going for Alice. I love Alice. I know a lot of people go for Johnny Depp and Joe Perry and stuff, and they're cool, you know, of course. But Alice, for me, he's the master. But it's going to be cool because it'll be my first Hollywood Vampire show, and my wife is coming with me from Mexico. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be exciting for her. I'm very excited to see how she finds it, because it's going to be her first proper show in England and proper rock show, you know, with the full works kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be super fun. But anyway, we're going to play a lot of music this hour, but also a lot of interview, because like I said, I've got a special guest a little bit later, which I'll get to. But for now, we've got a Looney Tune. This is a great song off of School's Out. Always loved this one. We Go with Looney Tune. Love that track, so cool. It's just, I love the drums and everything. It's just such a cool vibe. And you're here now as we're going to celebrate the newer album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper, released like quite a few months ago now, but it's new, you know. So check it out. And it's very much like true to that original Alice Cooper band sound, because he did it with the original band. This is the first album they've done in many years, you know, since the early days. And unfortunately it was missing the late Glenn Buxton, but they had a fantastic guitarist called Gyasi who fitted the bill perfectly for this album and had that cool kind of vibe in his playing, and he played on the album and did a fantastic job. So yeah, we'll be talking to him in just a little bit. I'll show you my chat I had with him a little while back. So there's the exclusive here. We got Gyasi on the show. And first we're going to play one of the tracks off of The Revenge of Alice Cooper. It's Black Mamba, and you'll hear how true it is to that sound. They haven't changed, they haven't lost anything, and it's fantastic. Such a great album. So this is Black Mamba.
I think I'll hide inside your bed sheets, coiled into the folds so white. I'll just watch you while you're sleeping, darling, and decide if I should bite. So dangerous to touch. You're just a slave to temptation, baby. Perhaps you want me much too much. I think I'll hide inside your bed sheets, coiled into the folds so white. Just watch you while you're sleeping, baby, and decide if I should bite. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Into my eyes, I ain't domesticated, I'm not that civilized. I'm crawling up your leg now, baby, to whisper in your ear a little poison lie now, baby. You've got nothing to fear. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I love your touch now, baby. I love to feel your skin. I wanna slide inside and hide before I do you in. way. Black mama slides, black mama sways. A word to the wise now, baby, you better get out of my way.
There we are, Black Mamba. Great song. You can hear that totally classic kind of vibe. Yeah, fantastic. I love that they got together and did a new album. I spoke with Dennis Dunaway, the bass player, or the iconic bass player, I should say. He's fantastic. Such a unique style. He's very original in his playing style. You know, he was one of the nicest guys I've interviewed. So I'll play that another week. But we've got Gyasi on in just a moment, who was the guitarist who came in on this album. He does a lot of his own work around Nashville and stuff. He's a fantastic guitar player, and I had a great chat with him. So, yeah, listen out for that. It's going to be really cool. And I'll just play one more song before we get on to my chat with Gyasi. One more song off of the new Alice Cooper album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. And I'm going to play a little song called Kill the Flies.
Yes, I'm institutional, but that's okay with me. I love these walls and lonely halls. It's where I'm supposed to be. But when I'm lying awake at night, oh, reeling from my meds, there's something flying around my face, buzzing around my head. Flies, these damn flies, I hate these flies. Kill the flies. Everybody's so kind to me. They feed me every day and walk me round these lovely grounds. It's home to me this way. But when I'm standing in a trance, staring at the clear blue sky, I know that they're all watching me, just waiting for me to die. Flies! These damn flies! I hate these flies! Kill the flies! die. Kill the flies. Oh, all these flies. I hate these flies.
There we have Kill the Flies. Very quirky, kind of unique kind of vibe there. I like how Alice has kind of brought that kind of a different feel when he plays with the original band. It's just a totally different vibe to when he plays with, you know, his solo albums and the musicians he plays with that. So it's nice to get that contrast. They're both really great, you know, no matter what he does. It's always cool with Alice, but this is great. I love her. The whole album has a lot of groovy kind of cool vibe, you know. Overall, you know, it's very quirky, very kind of classic Alice Cooper band, where they go off in little musical directions which are unexpected. When I chatted with Dennis Dunaway, he was telling me how, you know, it's a very Alice Cooper band thing to kind of go in a completely obscure direction and then bring it back in. And, you know, that's something they do, and kind of, yeah, it's a common theme. And this album definitely showcases that same thing, which all these years later they can still do. They, you know, it just comes naturally to them. They're great musicians, and when they get together and do an album, it's just fantastic. And right now, I'm going to talk with Gyasi. This is an interview I did a little while ago. Talking with Gyasi, he joined the band for this album. He's very lucky because he was invited in, you know, in the fold to do this album, a very important album, you know, for the original Alice Cooper band members. And Gyasi was just the perfect fit. And he talks with me here about, you know, getting the gig and many other things, but just the whole experience overall. So, yeah. Have a listen now to me chatting with Gyasi. This is just part of the interview, but we're going to close the show with this. So I'll see you next week, guys. And just enjoy now my chat with Gyasi. He's a fantastic musician in his own right, and on this album he did great. So check out his stuff, and check out, of course, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. See you next week. Bye.
Hey, Krusty here, with a message from Alice Cooper.
Metal Matt, Alice Cooper here. Good name, by the way. I'll tell Rob that I talked to you. And the best thing I can say to a guy like Metal Matt is, whatever you do, don't rust.
Hey guys, Metal Matt here, and I got a very special guest on the channel today from the new Alice Cooper album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. It's the new guitarist Gyasi, and I'm really excited to be able to chat with you because this kind of come out of nowhere. I think they've been keeping it under their hat for a long time, and all the Alice Cooper fans are going crazy now because there's a new album with the original Alice Cooper band, including you. You've been invited to join them, and I just want to know, how did that happen? Because that's a really unique opportunity, and you know, it's great to see that it's happening. So yeah, how did that actually happen in the first place?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I was as surprised as anybody. But I think, yeah, Bob Ezrin was looking for someone to fit in with the band with the absence of Glenn Buxton. And I don't think they wanted to go the, you know, studio session musician route like they have, you know, on a lot of previous records. Yeah. I mean, the list of guitar players on Alice's records are just, it's insane. Like Wayne Kramer, Joe Bonamassa. I mean, it's all Steve Hunter, all this. I mean, they're just all the top, top players. It's wild. And I think they wanted someone. I think it was just surprising to me that they were, you know, looking so outside of those circles. And there's a guy in Nashville named Mike Grimes, and he runs an amazing record store called Grimey's. And he also runs the Basement East in Nashville, which is one of the best venues here. And he's just really plugged into the scene. He's kind of a huge part of the Nashville community and has helped many bands' careers, you know, I mean, Cage the Elephant, and he's been, you know, he's just really a great guy and a great part of the Nashville community. and he also knows everybody. Like he sees, every new band that plays. Grimey's usually there. He goes to lots of shows, and Bob, I guess, knew that about him and asked him, if he recommended anyone. And Grimy thought of me, I think, immediately. But he was like, thought of me and probably some other people. And then he said, well, let me ask like two completely unrelated sources. So he asked one of his close friends from back home, and the first person that they suggested was me. And then I think he went and asked somebody totally separate, I think at Third Man Records, and then I was also the first name. So it was sort of the first name that came up from multiple sources. So he sent Bob and Alice some of my music, um, and they listened to it. And then Bob Ezrin called me. He was like, "Yeah, put me in touch." So I was on tour in New Orleans, and got a phone call out of the blue, and it was Bob Ezrin.
That's crazy. That's a
Yeah,
phone call you want to get.
yeah, and it was very, it was very much like, let's come in and do a session together. Here's two songs that they sent me, and it was very, let's just see how it goes. It was very loose. No promises were made or anything. I think it was very much like, I don't know, let's see if this works. And so that's kind of how I approached it. It just, I mean, obviously I knew what a big deal it was, but also it was kind of like knowing that these guys have been playing together since they were in high school. And I was like, much, much younger, just coming into this group of like, old friends. I was kind of kept it very open to see, maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. Like, it's all about the musical connection and see if I can fit in, and we can have a similar, have a dialogue together, as a band. So, yeah,
Yeah,
we kind of went from there. Yeah.
sounds great. Sounds like the planets aligned for you to get this job. This,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no,
They
that's
did.
crazy. And something I think's great is that they've kind of gave an emerging artist a chance as well, and it doesn't happen that often. I'm on a lot
Right.
of Alice Cooper Facebook pages and things, and you see a lot of the old grumpy guys sort of saying, "Oh, who's this young guy? Why didn't they get
Sure.
some old guitarist and stuff?" But the thing is, you're the kind of person who's going to be keeping this music alive for a long time. And if they weren't given their lucky break in the beginning, then they wouldn't be where they are. And I think it's great that Alice and the band are kind of encouraging that, and they've made the right choice because you're young, you got the energy, you're obviously in that kind of similar area. I saw another interview with you, and you're kind of quite similar to Alice in a lot of ways. A lot of the interests are there, and your kind of background and stuff. And I think that's what they need. And
Yeah.
obviously you're filling in basically for Glenn Buxton, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. And that must be quite a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around. How did you approach that with your style and kind of trying to get cover what he's doing as well?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I kept it pretty, I didn't go in trying to, you know, be a Glenn Buxton clone per se, because no one can replace Glenn Buxton. If they wanted someone that did that, they could have found someone more of an expert in that field than me, because I'm a little bit more like Jimmy Page is kind of my
Yeah.
my god. So I come from the Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck school a little bit more. But in talking to Alice, the Yardbirds were their favorite band in high school, and so I feel like there's a connection there that kind of like helped me make more sense of it. Where it's like, I come from a similar school, not necessarily, but I was never like, I never got like obsessed with Alice Cooper when I was young. I would usually get obsessed with bands and then like learn everything. And I loved Alice Cooper, and I always knew all of the the big hits and everything. But I never studied that music really. So I wasn't a super expert on their whole vocabulary going into it. Although interestingly, I was more familiar than I would have been, because I had been kind of randomly in the several months leading up to that phone call. In my van, I only have a cassette player, and I was out looking for cassettes, and I found at this like junk sale a greatest hits Alice Cooper tape. So I had this one tape that I was just playing over and over in my van all the time.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So so yeah, I mean, my goal was to honor, the spirit of Buxton in, in playing with these guys and fitting in and working together with them and trying to make something together and coming from, a similar background. But I wasn't trying to, replicate Glenn per se,
No,
more
no.
the spirit of it, the spirit of
Yeah.
fitting in with these guys. And that was how I approached it. And they're all really sweet guys. And once we started playing together, and what another thing that was really interesting is the first song that we did play was a Yardbirds cover.
Great.
Yeah. So Ain't Done Wrong, which is a great song, some great Jeff Beck playing on that. So that was kind of a really nice way for us to sort of get in a groove and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm kind of like you were, but I was the kind of Alice was my kind of thing growing up.
Really?
My obsessive band and Judas Priest, the two of them.
Oh no, oh
The
well,
two.
they're on tour right now or
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's got to be the coolest gig because I'm out in Cancun now. It's a bit difficult to get some of these
Right.
gigs, but I'm going to try and make what I can when things come around. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, and I think it's good you kind of in a way that you weren't like the mega fan growing up and things because it's kind of more organic. You're kind of putting your own flair on things, and I think
Yeah.
with that pressure, it would have been probably
It
quite.
it would have, yeah. I mean, and I did feel some pressure, but yeah, I think that really helped in that I was, it wasn't like, you know,
Yeah,
I was approaching it more from a musical perspective than from a fan perspective or from a, it was all about let's come up with something together, let's fit in, let's make something that I think is cool and they think is cool, right? If we all think it's cool, then we'll be happy. If we don't, then I'm sure they could find someone,
that's
that works. So, and also, and there is also a lot of overlap with Alice in what I do just as a songwriter and performer because my show is very theatrical,
yeah,
and I think even though my references come a little bit more from the you know, Bowie and some of the British bands like Roxy Music, um, I think Alice, you know, really kind of paved the way for Bowie and for all. I mean, Alice was kind of like the first. I mean, they're a groundbreaking band in terms of theatrics. Rock and roll theatrics. I mean, they invent. They are like the source of that music. So, I think when Dennis and Neil they came and saw my show in Nashville, I think it was actually the first day that we recorded together. After the recording session, they came. I had a show in Nashville, and they came, and I think they kind of understood a little bit more, where I was coming from by seeing my show and seeing the theatrics, and they said that it reminded them a lot of the stuff they were doing in the early days.
Yeah, yeah.
You
No, I
know.
checked out quite a few of your things, and it's really good. Yeah, it's, you got a
Thanks.
classic
Yeah.
sound and your style. You got a really good, like you say, your outfits are fantastic. You got that Bowie
Yeah.
vibe. And
Right.
I heard
Yeah.
Lightning and Sweet Thing. They had a couple of your tracks, and that was really cool. What I come across
Thanks.
there. And yeah, really
Yeah.
cool stuff. And where does that kind of influence come from? How long have you been doing that? And is Bowie your main influence, or you got a few different?
I mean, musically, I think Led Zeppelin is my biggest influence when I was younger. But I've been playing guitar since I was really young. I started when I was 6 years old, so I've spent years kind of going into all kinds of different styles and things. But so I have a lot of influences. But I think from a songwriting perspective and a sort of a musical vision perspective, I just think Bowie is just so brilliant in the way he was able to combine these different things. And I think I think the reason I like that so much is that I'm into so many different things. So I like taking different things and combining them,
Yeah,
theatrics, the fashion, the makeup, the persona, the lyrics, because in college I studied gypsy jazz, like Django Reinhardt. So, trying to bring in some elements of the, jazz music and, cabaret and, kind of all these different things and finding a way. And I feel like glam rock and the way Bowie did it, I think, is really amazing because it's so intellectually stimulating and there's so much, it's so rich. There's so much there aside from obviously, and it fucking rocks too. It's
thank
like
you.
so
Yeah, yeah.
so
Yes. much like how Bowie did himself. He kind of was a bit of a chameleon. He'd take things from his
Yeah.
influences and kind of it become his own unique thing. I think that's quite a cool approach. I'm kind of similar. I do music myself. I sing a songwriter, but I draw a bit from Judas Priest. I draw a bit from Alice Cooper, and then other little things that I like. Some psychedelic stuff like gong sometimes, and
Oh, cool.
all this
Yeah.
kind of old school kind of stuff. But when you sort of take little things, it can kind of come together as quite a unique,
Yeah.
because you can do it in so many different ways, depending what you're taking and
Yeah.
getting influence from. It can really come out as a unique sound, and your stuff really demonstrates that. I haven't heard much like that. I can see why the band noticed you and kind of wanted you on the album, because it's it's really cool. Um,
Thanks.
what was it like getting in the studio with Alice? Obviously, Black Mamba's dropped now, which is a great song. Any stories about that, or working with the band? How was that actually being in the studio with them?
It was great. It was really cool to, when we would set up kind of in a circle, So it was like I was kind of right across from Dennis, next to Neil, and then Alice would be over here. Um, and those sessions, Michael Bruce wasn't at the Nashville sessions, because he couldn't fly in, so it was just the four of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really, it was just a band in a room,
Yeah.
And we did it live, and all the basic tracks and everything. It was pretty surreal, to be sitting across from Dennis and like watching him, like come up with parts and try different things. And his bass playing, I love his bass playing. It's so great, it's so
Yeah.
iconic. It's
Yeah.
like it's the real thing.
Mm.
So yeah, that was great. And then, a lot of that, those were sort of some of the basic sessions, but I didn't play on the basics for the whole record. So there were a lot of other sessions that happened where it was just me and Bob Ezrin. Bob Ezrin would fly to town from Toronto, and we would get in a studio and kind of go through, these songs that already had basic tracks and work. So most of this record, my closest work was done with Bob Ezrin, kind of one on one, just the two of us.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. And he's a huge part of that band.
Mm.
Bob is at least 50% Alice Cooper, or if not more. I mean, he's brilliant. He's just, the way his mind works. He's just has just a great. I mean, he's a producer. He's got the producer mind, so he's able to kind of take account for every detail and the big picture at the same time. So yeah, that was really fun. And we did a lot of sessions like that where, and it was very collaborative, and it was, sometimes it was free reign to do whatever I wanted. And other times, like, Bob had a really specific thing that he wanted. And so we would, it was very collaborative, and we would like both give input until we both arrived at something that we liked.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was kind of how it went. Yeah.
and like a band should be, really. Doesn't really matter if it's the Alice Cooper band or any band. You've kind of got to go through that same kind of
Yeah. It's
just
the same
jamming out.
process. Yeah.
Mhm.
Same. I mean, same way I do my records, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
was the Black Mamba, anything you can tell us about that? And anything you
that
remember?
that was the first, after we did the live sessions in Nashville. I think that was the first like song that I got that had already been recorded, the basic tracks, and I had to do the guitars on.
Mm.
I remember we had, like, pretty sure that one we had a Marshall stack and then another amp, like stereo. So I remember, like, when we were tracking, like, the sound, it was like this huge guitar sound. That was really awesome. Um, but that one, when I got it, it didn't have Robbie Krieger on it.
Oh,
And I don't think there was any solo on it. I think it was kind of just all, the riffs. And so I think, that one, I think we did it pretty quick and
mm.
did all the riffs and stuff. And then I didn't, until it came out, I didn't know that Bob was gonna, oh, we need some psychedelic guitar. Who could we call? I know, yeah, Robbie Krieger. It's like the
Yeah,
access, it's just amazing. So that was really cool to see that, and have be on a track with Robbie Krieger. It's
yeah.
awesome.
I guess, and maybe there was a few pop-up special guests. Is there on the album? I don't know. I've heard different things, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't honestly know. Aside from, I know, yeah, Robbie, and then the guy who had done some of the early sessions with them was a guy named Rick Tedesco, and I think he has Glenn Buxton's guitar. I think he's the one who salvaged his old SG and brought it back to life. And so yeah, there were there was at least one song where he had done like a solo on something, and Bob and I were just like, I was like, that solo is perfect. Like I can, if I play this, I'm going to play the exact same thing. I can't top this solo. So there was some of the stuff that he's on, a few songs. But as far as I know, that's the rest is it's just Michael Bruce and me and Rick and Robbie.
Wow, that is cool, and I think that's
Yeah,
what fans want. They want to hear that kind of classic sound, and it's great
yeah.
that you're able to help bring that. And was there any kind of any difficulties in the studio? Anything you remember you were kind of struggled with and had to overcome?
Uh, I mean, I think Bob Ezrin can be intense. When the red light's on.
I'm
So
sure.
there, but it was never. It was just we were riding the same intensity together. Where it was like and I mean I improvise all my solos. So I would go in with a blank slate, and then it would be like, okay, guitar solo time, and just hit record, and then it's completely improvising. So you're in the hot seat for those moments. But that's part of what that's how rock and roll is made. You do it. The tape's
Yeah.
rolling, and you lay it down. And so I partially enjoy that way of working. So no, I mean I don't. Yeah, I think there was never anything that we were like beating our heads against the wall or anything.
No, it was all quite
Um,
natural and things. Yeah, and
yeah,
your solos. Do you have a favorite solo you played on the album?
I honestly haven't listened to it in a while. I've only heard I like final mixes because it's been a while. We've been having to keep a tight lip on this for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, since I got the first call. So I did my last session was like last August. So it's been a while. And also, when you do a bunch of solos, it's like I don't know which one they're gonna pick. Sometimes we'll have like three options.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's up to Bob. So so yeah, until I listen to the whole record, I know Wild Ones I think has some nice guitar work on it.
yeah.
But there were several really cool. There's one song. I mean, one thing that I think really makes this record like OG Alice Cooper group is that there's almost like a show tune on it, like a jazz number, which is like Blue Turk on some of their early
Yeah,
records where you just have this total left field song, which
yeah.
is such an Alice Cooper group thing, and this record has one like that. And that has, I mean, I'm doing like kind of a Django Reinhardt sort of solo on that. It's like total departures. So
That's awesome.
yeah, there's some really
That's really cool.
yeah.
And so overall, with the sound of the album, is it gonna be pretty much what people expect, like the original band sound? Is there anything
It's
new sounding on there, one track
I mean,
or anything?
yeah, there is. I mean, there is some modern. There's definitely more modern production on it, um, on the record. But to me, it's more like Killer, like early Alice Cooper group. Is I think the overall like energy of the record is like it's the foundational like how they started is kind of the overall energy. I mean, there's new songs and new a more modern sound, but that I feel like is the overall vibe of this record.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
definitely noticed that Killers
yeah,
kind of vibe on
yeah,
Black Mamba. It's really neat.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and with the equipment and stuff that you use on your guitar, did you have to change any of that for this album from what you use for your own music? Was there anything?
Not a whole lot. Except I was in some studios where I would, had a sort of more of a palette of, things to choose from. I wish I had a three pickup SG, but didn't have one of those. But I did use an SG quite a bit. I have a Les Paul. I have a RO.
Oh, that's sweet. That's
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful
wow,
RO.
very nice.
1960 Les Paul. That's my main guitar. And so that's
Sweet.
probably the main guitar on the record. But a lot of it was tuned down to E flat. So this guitar doesn't like E flat that much. So for those songs, I think I used a Firebird for a few, ES 335, and mostly all Marshall,
Really?
like Marshall Plexi, for most of the record. A little Fender Bassman in there. But yeah,
Very
yeah,
classic then, yeah, very classic.
very classic. Yeah, yeah.
That's nice, yeah. And do you think how did you find Alice to work with personally? Was he quite intense in the studio, or was he
Yeah.
focused on
Very
certain things?
focused. He's a really sweet guy, really nice. The first day that we recorded, the first hour of the whole session when I got to the studio, I basically just sat with Alice and talked on the couch for like an hour, just, you know, about, I mean, I had so many questions, and so there's so much, I mean, yeah, he's just the experiences that they've lived. It's like the stories. And so yeah, I had so many things I wanted to pick his brain about. And, yeah, he was just a really sweet guy, total gentleman, and a, I mean, the amount of stamina that he has is just unbelievable. At his age, I mean, because he had been on tour, they came off tour, we were doing these sessions, and then that night Alice had rehearsals for an upcoming like 3 month tour that was about to start. So we're in the studio, and then Alice is like going to rehearsal every night for that. It was like, yeah, pretty inspiring, just like how he just does not stop. It's wild. um but yeah, I thought he was great to work with.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, the
crazy.
rock star.
Exactly.
Total rock star.
He
Yeah,
is the kind of definition, really. He's
yeah,
always been the coolest kind of guy, and like you say, so many stories to tell. He's the one guy I've always dreamed of meeting. I've met most of my rock
really.
heroes, but yeah, it's just someone
Yeah,
I've always hoped one day it happen. I think it will one day. Maybe I'll get him on for an interview or something sometime.
yeah.
Be good to chat with him about this album, and yeah, it's just he's got such a kind of charisma, hasn't he? He's
Hmm.
on stage and off stage. He seems very interesting and kind of many
Very.
stories to tell. Is there anything you kind of learned from him that will stick with you? Any advice he gave you or anything like that, which sticks in your mind?
mm, hmm. Nothing in particular advice wise. I think just the experience
Exactly.
enough, experience, and you know getting to talk about his experience, um just at that time. I mean, they lived it at the right time. I mean, I think the stuff with Dali, Salvador Dali and
Uh,
Groucho Marx that he was friends with, these like completely legendary, iconic characters that he got to meet. um but I think seeing Alice's discipline and work schedule, at his age, and his drive to continue creating new things, but also, you know, you know, making a new show. I mean, he was working on a brand new theatrical show for that tour. He had just done one, and he was like creating a new show, rehearsing like brand new stage props and all this stuff, making a new record. And so I think that was the most inspiring thing to me, was just like, wow, like that's how you do it. Like that's
yeah.
how you do it. You make it happen. So, and him and Bob were actually, what was really a cool moment was we had some off time uh at the studio, like break time, and Bob and Alice were sitting across from each other. Bob had an acoustic guitar, and they were writing lyrics and working on, like, I guess what will be probably the next Alice Cooper solo record, I think, or unless it could have been something on this record, but I think it was something else. They were already like writing new songs. So yeah, that was probably the most
Wow.
inspiring part for me.
Yeah, he's definitely a man with a vision, and I think sometimes that's how these kind of really artistic people work. You kind of can't really shut off. You just one thing
Yeah,
after another. Your mind's kind of whirling ahead of so many different ideas. I guess he's materializing it as it kind of comes to mind by the sounds of it. That's really cool.
yeah.
I can imagine the experience itself must have just been something, inspiring for you, and hopefully within your solo work too, you'll be able to carry some of that with you. You might
Yeah.
on a pretty heavy workload if you get into
Yeah.
much of
I
this.
mean, I'm about to go on tour next week, but I'm working on my next record right
Oh,
now. Yeah.
wow. Tell me a bit about that. What's that kind of, what do people expect from that kind of thing?
Well, it's a little early to tell, but I'm doing it. I just put out a record in February. And that was kind of very much with my touring band. And this record so far, I've been playing a lot a lot of the instruments myself, like even playing drums on some stuff. So
Yeah,
that's been a slightly different approach, which yields its own results. Um, but so far it's a pretty driving rock record so far. Like
awesome.
a lot of yeah, kind of garagey maybe, like in the guitar riffs. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, but I don't know. We're about 6 songs in, so it still leaves time for it to develop.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It takes time these days. I think a lot of people don't realize how long sometimes an album, different things can take.
album can take a while. Yeah, so I'm trying to get faster at it because I
Yeah,
want to. I think if you look back in the day, I mean, these bands were putting out at least a record a year, if not more.
yeah.
And yeah, these days it's like that seems challenge. It's challenging
It
to do
does.
that.
It
But
does.
that's my goal definitely to have. I think this record, the goal is to put it out like next spring, March,
Awesome.
March or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that is sweet. I know what you mean with the like back in the day. I see bands like Judas Priest, and they had not only an album out pretty much every year, but an iconic album. When you look at it
Right.
now,
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
they do that? You know, like Screaming for
Yeah.
Deliverance, Defenders of the Faith, and it just went on and on with like iconic stuff. And I think Alice was the same. A lot of these bands,
Yeah.
it must have been a pretty magical period back then, where somehow they were able to just, you know,
Yeah.
and get on with it and create some great stuff. I think, like you say, times have changed a bit. It's things have kind of slowed down a bit. Maybe that's
Yeah.
a good thing, but there was certainly an art to back in the day. Maybe that approach needs to come back, and I guess it might be
Yeah.
a bit more less thought went into it. They just went with what they felt and
Yeah.
got
Go
it
with it.
down. And I think that's often the way. The question that's on everyone's lips: will there be a tour to go with this with the original band, of course,
Yeah.
with this album?
That is the question on everyone's lips.
It
Including all of us, really. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. I can't say. I know, you know, I know I think the band wants to tour, or at least I think they definitely want to play.
Mm,
And I think, there are logistical things involved, I think, that just have to be, dealt with. Um, these they're not they haven't been touring like Alice has, over the years. So I don't know if it'll be as much of like a hardcore,
mm.
like full out tour. But I think there's rumors of like doing some special shows. So hopefully there'll at least be that where it'll be kind of some of the key cities, New York, LA, Detroit, Paris, London, something like that. But Alice's schedule, right now, if you look at Alice's schedule, he's on the road pretty much till I think next spring almost
Yeah, yeah.
with his band. So, I guess it will be it. Yeah, I doubt it will be soon like this fall or anything. It'd probably be I guess next year. So maybe I think they also maybe are kind of looking to see how well the record sells, and I mean I know demand. I mean I know the fans want to see them, and also from my perspective, I want to see them get together and play,
Mm.
and I think them coming together and doing this record, it's like me as a fan, it's like why not? Like if you're gonna get together and do a record together, play some shows together while you can. So I hope that they will, I hope that they will.
Yeah,
So, and I'll be there to support them if they are.
yeah, yeah. Well, I
So,
hope you, if they do, I hope you'll be on the road with them, and
yeah, if they tour with this record, I will be on the road with them. But
awesome,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I hope to see it 'cause it's quite new, It's Alice has been doing his thing with his current band, which he's been going with for quite a long time now. Sometimes they switch guitars here and there, but
right.
a pretty solid,
Hmm.
structure, and they are a strong force to
Oh yeah, they're great.
deal with. So they're
Great.
fantastic. But I think it's
Yeah,
great to see him do something else, and original
yeah,
for a while. And yeah, if they can just do a few select tour dates, that'd be fantastic. And I think it'd be the next. Oasis reunion thing where all the tickets. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I eagerly await that. I'm hoping I'll be able to make one of the shows if it does happen, and yeah, it'll be really cool. So yeah, tell me a bit about your songwriting process yourself when you're writing songs. Do you have certain subjects you kind of approach with your songwriting, or how do you put your thoughts to paper, kind of thing? How do you work?
Yeah, I have different ways of doing it. I guess a lot of times it's riff based, or guitar is usually the first thing for me. Um, and so yeah, it's that's usually sort of how I'll build something is and then find hooks, find melodic hooks, and then yeah, usually for me lyrics are kind of the last puzzle piece to kind of get the right lyric that fits this
Cool.
the musical energy that I've kind of already created.
Hmm.
But I also sometimes, will just sort of free write poetry and write things in notebooks to sort of either draw from or, have kind of a running list of ideas. So it's kind of, sort of synthesize, trying to have all that stuff kind of working. And then hopefully when you start, really creating and sitting down, you can find those puzzle pieces and kind of put it all together. But sometimes I write, on acoustic guitar and do it that way, very singer-songwriter way as well. And for this last record, I wrote some on piano as well.
No.
So, I like to try, I think doing it different ways is part of how I do it. And, it keeps me inspired because it feels fresh when I'm approaching it from another direction.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool. I kind of songwriting myself is quite similar. It's kind of one of those things. I think there's no real set way of doing it. Sometimes it just springs to mind some idea, and you got to run with it. And yeah, like you said, I think many people will relate to that if they are songwriters. It's kind of one of those things. Sometimes it's a melody, sometimes it's a phrase that might come to your mind for a chorus or something, a good saying
Yeah.
or something.
Right.
I find with songwriting sometimes one of the secrets, I guess, which I think works, is like a well-known expression or something, a saying that's kind of well heard or well known. If you can get that somewhere into the song, like a hooky kind of phrase, don't let the cat your tongue, or whatever the phrase might be, some
Yeah.
like well-known thing.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, that seems to work. And little things. It's funny what can help you write a song. It can come from very very strange places. Sometimes you'll be just sat somewhere,
Totally.
a thought will come, and yeah, I think it's one of the best parts of writing making music. It's the song
Yeah.
element is quite
Yeah.
quite
It's
interesting.
It is, and it's very mysterious, It's one of those things. It's yeah, there can be, a very sort of magic sort of like where did that come from,
Yeah,
there's still like mystery in it, like very perceptible mystery to it sometimes. So I think that's very exciting
yeah, yeah,
about it. But yeah, books too, language books,
exactly.
overheard conversations. I mean, it's everywhere. It's yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
people who aren't musicians wouldn't really understand the weirdness of how some of these songs come about. And we're listening, like you said,
oh
listening to
yeah, oh yeah,
conversations, and, anything you might hear, and people would be surprised what might end up in a song that's from their life or something you've heard someone
oh
say.
yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a strange thing. Yeah, I was speaking with Doug Aldrich the other day. I had an interview with him, and he was saying the same about the organicness as well, of kind of sometimes you've just got to go with that initial thought, and something that's there, that sometimes that's the magic, like you say. It's
Right.
quite magical. You don't know where it comes from, and that first thing might resonate more with people than a really contrived idea that you're kind of overthinking. So yeah, it's an interesting side of things.